This is Rachel. She quit her job to go on a mission to fix childcare in the UK.
2 days later, I walked into my boss's office and said, I'm going to be leaving.
When she had her first child, she saw that childcare in the UK just didn't work.
I saw my friends having babies at the same time as me. What was really heartbreaking is I saw some choosing not to have another child, a second child, because they just could not figure out how to make the childcare costs work.
Before she quit her job, she wanted to run a test to see if there was demand for her idea. So she gave herself 2 weeks to get 100 inquiries.
The combination of words, images, channel, whatever it was that I had tried absolutely took off, and I went past my goal on that day.
But Rachel needed millions in investment to actually get her idea off the ground. And on top of that, she was 9 months pregnant. Rachel managed to raise the money that she needed to start her business, but things didn't get any easier.
We thought we were on top of the world, but
Rachel and her team spent 6 months trying to make the original idea work without success, until they had to pivot. Today, Koru Kids is a successful business that picks up 3,000 children after school every single day. We caught up with Rachel to hear about her journey creating Koru Kids and their mission to build a better childcare system.
all of a sudden, when I had my first baby, I realized that the childcare system was so almost didn't exist. It felt like running into a wall. And I saw my friends having babies at the same time as me, and I saw them doing things like giving up the careers that I knew how hard they'd worked to build in the first place. I saw them moving out of London when they loved London to be nearer their family because that's the only way they could make childcare work. And what was really heartbreaking is I saw some choosing not to have another child, a second child, because they just could not figure out how to make the childcare costs work. And so I saw all of these, and it was an accumulation of stories that made me realize someone really needs to do something about this. One of the things that gets me is childcare is not fundamentally respected as infrastructure, and it should be. 1 in 3 London schools doesn't have an after-school club. Imagine if 1 in 3 London roads didn't exist. Imagine if 1 in 3 water pipes suddenly disappeared. This would be a crisis. It would obviously be top of the news, and that's what it should be with childcare, because we have the equivalent holes in our childcare infrastructure, and we need to think about it as infrastructure. So what we do at Koru Kids is we provide nannies, we provide childcare to families, and we actually go out and we find people who would make great nannies, and then we recruit them and we train them ourselves, and then we match them, and then we manage them. We create software to help that relationship really, really be great. So I was working in a different job when I had the idea for Koru Kids, and I set myself a goal. I said, if I get a certain number of sign-ups, I can't remember how many it was, let's say 100, then I will quit my job. And I also said I'm going to give myself 2 weeks to be able to do this. And I thought if I can't achieve that in 2 weeks, I'll move on to a different idea. I made a website. I remember I used Squarespace. I remember it very vividly because it made me cry. I did not find it intuitive, and it promised it would be intuitive, and I thought, I'm just terrible at this. What was good about it though, was that I could really tweak the wording, the imagery, and the proposition. And also I was putting it on different places. At this time it was 2016, so Facebook groups were a really big deal. So I was mostly using Facebook groups. I was also putting it on Gumtree and really any forums, any kind of places I could find. So I started trying, and week 1 I really didn't get any. And I got to halfway through week 2 and I thought, you know what, this is fine. It's not a good idea. I'll move on to a different idea in a couple of weeks' time. And I tried something and I tweaked the landing page, and it had my phone number on it, and then I went out for lunch with a friend. And when I was at lunch, my phone rang, and I answered it and said, I'm really sorry, I'm just at lunch, I'll give you a call back. Hung up, and then my phone rang again. And I said, I'm really sorry, I'm at lunch, I'll call you back in a second. Hang up, and then my phone rang again. And the combination of words, images, channel, whatever it was that I had tried that day, just absolutely took off, and I went past my goal on that day. I remember it very vividly, and 2 days later, on a Friday, I walked into my boss's office and said, I'm going to be leaving. The most dramatic thing that happened during my fundraise was I had a baby, and that happened in the middle of my £3.5 million fundraise, which was our seed round. And that was back in 2017, 2018. It was pre-COVID, so I was having to go to all of these meetings in person. And really when you fundraise, it is all about how many meetings you can cram into your day at once. And so I was trying to do 3-4 meetings a day. The fastest way to get around London to these in-person meetings is by tube. So I was running up and down the stairs, 9 months pregnant. And you don't see 9 months pregnant people that often. You often see kind of like 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, but generally by the time you get to 9, people don't actually leave the house. And I really looked like very unusual, let's say. And I would turn up and there would be these rooms of 6 or 7, usually men, maybe a couple of women in the room. And I would be kind of exhausted and sort of everything would be askew and I'd be sweaty and hot and I would just have to project this competence. And so that was one of the hardest things that I've ever done. The first 6 months was pretty tough because we had a lot of initial success. We had a huge amount of sign-ups. We got a double-page spread in the Evening Standard. I raised money pretty much out of the gates from some amazing angels and even a VC very early on. So initially, my idea was to do nanny share, which is when 2 families share a nanny. They pay a bit less each, the nanny gets paid a bit more, and the kids get to play together, which sounded great. So we had this website which was full of pictures of babies, and we got lots and lots of sign-ups for that. And we thought we were on top of the world, but we weren't actually able to convert any paying customers. And so every day we would come to work and every day we would try and every day we would fail, and we just got sadder and sadder and sadder. Until about 6 months in, when we realized we had some hidden gold in our signups, because a large percentage, maybe a third to a half of all of our signups were actually signing up for something that we didn't offer at all. What we discovered was the number of signups that we were having for after school care was off the charts. When a whole bunch of people sign up for something that you're not selling, that's when you know there's huge latent demand. And that's how we knew that they really, really, really wanted it. And they were so desperate they couldn't find after school childcare anywhere else. So if we could solve that problem, then we would be able to grow really fast. And so that's what we did. We've had a few challenging moments. I think the most challenging one early on was one of our partners had a data breach. And this was the company Typeform that we use, kind of like Google Form, but it was Typeform. And they were a big, reputable company, and unfortunately they suffered a data breach. But we have very sensitive information and we were collecting it through Typeform. And I remember thinking, oh, that's fine, our customers will understand. It's not our data breach, it's their data breach. It's unfortunate, but I'm sure everyone will understand. And it was a huge learning thing for me because our customers did not make any distinction between us having a data breach and Typeform having a data breach. I remember when we had this breach, and I think it was a Friday night, which is really the worst time to get this particular notice. And luckily it was early days where we had a real startup, scrappy team mentality, and it was pre-COVID, everyone was in the same room. And so we just hunkered down and everyone got on the phones, everyone was on frontline customer service. We became very strict on cybersecurity. We're really hot on making sure that everyone has training regularly and we do all the practices that we should do. So something good came out of it, but it was painful. I'm very proud of what we've built. We now pick up 3,000 kids, give or take, from school every day. And we've helped thousands and thousands of nannies get really great jobs. And we're about to pass the milestone of 3.5 million hours of childcare delivered.